Hello, welcome to another episode of Somewhere Between a film and TV podcast. We're your hosts. I am Daniel Parra.
And I'm Erwin Trejo.
And number one, thank you so much for listening. If this is your first time, hopefully you stick around. Erwin, what do we like to do here?
Dude, I don't know. I like to do a lot of things.
No, on the show.
Oh, talk?
We like to review movies and TV shows, and we're implementing a new thing where if you leave a review for us or a star rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and DM our Instagram account that you did Somewhere Between Film on Instagram, we will shout you out on the show. This week, I want to go ahead and shout out the user Kanye Feast 1. Thank you so much for leaving a 5-star review.
I like Kanye.
His music?
No. That's everything else he says. That's my
you just have to.
Dude, it's just so funny to me.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I also want to shout out Juicy Jr.
Oh, yeah. That was another review that was left on March 22nd or 23rd.
Yeah, good memory.
Yeah. No, I was looking at it.
Yeah,
It said, very good. Thank you for saying that.
Yes.
Well, Erwin, what we like to do is review movies and TV shows.
Thanks for the reminder.
Sometimes we get off topic, but
Nope.
eventually we'll circle back around. Everything we review will always have full spoilers, even if it's not necessarily a comic book movie or a blockbuster. Sometimes we do want to talk about some plot elements in depth. And then our next couple of episodes will definitely be some smaller movies. This one, although I don't know if you qualify it as smaller, but A24's distribution deal, this is still technically smaller than, let's say, Godzilla Kong,
Yeah.
for example. Well, what did you think of the movie Civil War?
No Captain America? No Iron Man?
Or Spider-Man?
Or Spider-Man? The deal breaker of it all.
Honestly, different approach for the superhero genre, I think.
Dude, I still remember when we were in high school and then they announced like Spider-Man
Would be in that.
Yeah, it was insane. Oh man.
No, because there was that whole rights deal. Do you remember the whole like fake Age of Ultron end credit scene where he just sort of appears in the window and the reflection? I miss fake leaks and fake
trailers,
post credit scenes. Remember we were looking at the AI Popeye.
Oh my gosh, the
video.
Popeye.
There was one that was supposed to be The Rock as Popeye, and it was like an AI image for sure. That whole trailer felt like it though.
Yeah.
And it also he looked like so muscular.
Oh, but like it's just funny how they take scenes from different movies.
Oh, and then make the trailer for it.
To make the trailers.
But dude, the amount of people that are fooled by that is ridiculous because it's so many different people. Like it's, you know how Beetlejuice 2 is coming out?
Yes.
But there would always be those Facebook posts that are like The Conjuring 5 or The Nun 3. And then they're just fooled by these random ass posters that my sister constantly sent me this one where it's like, I don't know what they call it, but it's basically old Harry Potter or Harry Potter Return to Hogwarts. And
dude,
it's like
Return to Hogwarts.
Like, why is he going back?
He's been going back every year.
It's like, what do you mean he's 50 and is headed back there? No. Civil War.
Yes.
Directed by Alex Garland. Did you have any expectations going into this? Did you know what it would be?
I had no expectations. I try not to have any expectations when it comes to movies, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
And then I didn't know much about. I remember the trailers for it, and I genuinely didn't think, as much as the action was showed in the trailers, I didn't think it was going to be action heavy.
Right.
Just because, of course, I knew the director. I didn't know him personally, but as much as I would love
my
to.
buddy Alex Garland would make a movie like this.
My guy Alex right here, right? But just based on his previous movies, he's never been very action heavy.
Yeah.
And he likes to just tell an actual story.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I guess if anything, was expecting to go into. And so yeah, I feel like I just contradicted myself saying I have no expectations. And I'm like, I expected this one thing.
No, Well, I feel like I understand what you mean in terms of expectation for the movie's quality, because sometimes people expect something to be earth-shattering or groundbreaking, especially when they're told that it is.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, I know someone that saw Parasite, for example, about a year after it had come out.
Yes.
And he said, I thought it was okay.
Dude,
Because
I love Parasite.
No, Parasite's one of my favorite movies ever, and flex for us as we saw that like the day it came out, and I can just imagine the sort of hype you hear with a movie like that, and then a year later seeing it and then being like, I don't get this. Like, I think it's because it's the weight of expectation that relies on something. But you do kind of expect a director to have a certain style, and sometimes they do or sometimes they don't, because sometimes they also have the workman-like quality. Like Ron Howard, I would say, is one of those directors that if you see his name on something, I don't really know how that's going to be. I don't know how that's going to turn out. Alex Garland has this approach where all I do know is that you'll have a lot to talk about because it's presented as such in the movies that he makes. What are your takes on his previous movies? There's Ex Machina, Annihilation. I don't know if you've seen 28 Days Later. But
I haven't seen it. Wait, is that the one with
Cillian Murphy? Yeah.
No, I still haven't seen that one.
And Men.
My take on Men? So I've only seen Ex Machina, Annihilation, and Men.
Right.
And so I think Men was his latest movie, correct?
Right.
And so I remember that movie specifically feeling very, how do I describe it? Very meh? Like mid, I guess?
No.
No? Oh, I don't know.
I don't
You can't feel that.
Meh.
Meh?
Mm?
Oh, meh? And?
I'm sure there's a...
I felt it was okay. And the reason why, because it just felt very formulaic.
Yeah.
And it started to feel how the other A24 movies were being set up. I guess the same way how people say the Marvel movies, they have a formula.
Yeah.
Right?
And I don't want to...
I hate that. I don't like saying that too, because stories sound or will always have the same type of structures no matter how different it may be. But at least for that one, it just felt very just structured in a way where you kind of figured where things were going. And of course, it still had certain moments where you want to talk about to others, but I guess I still left that movie feeling underwhelmed just because of how much built up there was in the movie.
Yeah.
But I remember Annihilation and coming out of it loving it.
Oh, we saw that together. The first time I ever saw that
Ex
movie.
Machina as well. I remember loving Ex Machina a lot. I think that's probably my favorite movie, if I remember, because I think I've seen that movie like 3 times.
Yeah.
3-4 times.
I want to go see that IMAX re-release.
They're doing for Ex Machina?
Yeah. So what A24 is doing is they're currently doing basically their best hits of their catalog and putting them into IMAX throughout this year. There's a lot of anniversary and re-release stuff happening this year, and I wonder if it's because they know that there's an audience for it, and people have been kind of clamoring for movies to be put back into theaters that people would want to see again. It's why Dune is getting a IMAX re-release like next week again.
Dune. My Dune. I'm sorry.
But no, in terms of A24, and I know people are going to say this because it is true. I know that A24 technically doesn't have a style or a brand because they're a studio. What they do is they distribute movies. And sometimes people are like, A24 is not the one making the movie. But you have to be honest that their horror movies do follow a very specific sort of layout. No matter if the director is different, if it's someone that's never... even talked to Ari Aster for like Hereditary. I mean, Talk to Me was amazing.
Oh, I haven't seen that one. I heard it was great though.
Yeah, no, it is great. I haven't seen Men actually, and I remember hearing that it sort of made you tired of the aesthetic of that kind of horror movie
Mm-hmm.
that it sort of makes you realize, oh, there is a formula to the ones that are weird and different too.
Yeah, because it also reminded me of Midsummer.
Yeah, which
as
I
well.
do
Yeah.
love. I love that movie a
Mhm.
lot.
It's like very loud sounds,
Yeah.
and then of course the color aesthetic as well,
Mhm.
and so you see a lot of that.
So Men I haven't seen. I
Mhm.
still want to. I still will.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I heard that it was coming sort of when there was an onslaught of movies that were coming out like that, because the way Hollywood works, of course, is that they see a certain kind of movie and they're like, hey, this movie's working. Let's make our movies like that.
Yes.
And it's cool that the impact of that has been that jump scares are no longer as prevalent in horror movies as they used to be. And, I actually have a story to tell you about that on our next episode.
Okay.
But it's sort of, you need to vary the things that you do, especially since A24 has announced that they do need to make sort of bigger blockbusters, and that this is the first of that kind of nature. This is one of their larger budget movies.
Okay. It doesn't feel like a big blockbuster type of movie, regardless.
Definitely didn't. To me, it felt like a kind of hybrid of what they usually do and that.
Yes.
It sort of felt
Probably
like
the last 20 or 30 minutes, I would say.
Yeah, it felt like if somebody saw a Roland Emmerich movie
Oh, yeah.
and was like, hey, can we focus on just the journalist?
Yeah.
And that was it.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of his previous movies, Ex Machina, I adore. I've also seen it a few different times. I think it might still be my favorite overall of his because everything in that movie works for me. I love his science fiction take on things. 28 Days Later is also amazing. That has a really analog approach. It was shot on this old CV camcorder, so it looks really, really grainy and dirty and just every sort of old processed image.
You like it dirty, so.
Right, yeah. So
So when was the last time you took a shower?
this morning.
Oh, well.
No, I like taking photos on my camera whenever it's been in my pocket, so it's super cloudy and you can't see anything. And you're like,
and then I ask you, hey Daniel, can you take a photo? And you're like, sure.
and you're like, this is so dusty and this is so smudged. What did you do? Be like, sorry, I had something super oily, and then I rubbed it all over the camera. That's like whenever you ask me to take a picture, and then I always take a picture of myself before I take a picture of you.
I do that too.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
it's hilarious.
It is funny. I'm not gonna.
I like doing that
I
on
do.
strangers' phones. Every time I'm at the domain or something, like, can you take a picture? I'm like, sure. And I like
Takes a whole video of yourself.
I look really confused, and then I give it back to them.
And then you just start sprinting the other way.
No, but I do take their picture. But I'm like, haha, now they know who took their picture too. I'm not like mean about it, because they still deserve the quality
Alright.
photo,
That's fine.
just like this movie.
Hey guys, welcome back to Somewhere Between.
So, Civil War, the Alex Garland movie, not Cap. I can see.
Why do you have to?
I can
Don't look
see
at
it
me
in your
like that.
eyes.
I know. It's just I love that movie too.
Which one?
Both. I love both.
Captain America:
actually.
Civil War.
Yeah.
I remember when that came out. Honestly, in retrospect, Iron Man has very good points in that movie. But I still love Captain
I'm still
America.
Captain America.
But that came out at a point whenever we were both like, dude, can Iron Man just like take a break from?
Oh yeah, and they did.
Yeah.
And then we love Iron Man again.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
That's how it worked with the Minions.
Oh my gosh, dude. All right, let's go.
So Civil War by
Yes.
Alex Garland. What did you think of it?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I genuinely enjoyed everything about it. I think one of my few favorite parts from that movie was the journalist, right?
Right.
And seeing their journey, just documenting what's going around in the countries or in the country, and just seeing it from their point of view. Also, and I did enjoy the lack of action.
Yeah.
And it's just because it could have gone that way, and that's what I didn't want to see, just because that felt very easy to like capture the audience. But instead, the way that Alex Garland approached it was trying to showcase like the tension like the country felt between the characters that were shown through the other side characters as well.
So in the news, they always say tensions are rising. They say
Yes.
that tensions are boiling. There's this specific kind of phrase in this movie. especially the trailer. The trailer sort of marketed this as, what is the take going to be politically in this movie? And I talked about this with a few separate people. We were just with our friend Dakota earlier. I had heard from a few different people that had seen the trailer. They were like, this movie looks bad. I had heard that from one of our friends, one of our other friends, and then our other friend Alex as well. Yeah. And I kept asking, well, why do you think that is? And everybody kept telling me, they were like, it just feels like it's going to be super political, but in the bad way. And I think, unfortunately, that the way this movie is structured and the way it works, you can't quite sell what it is. This movie is apolitical. It intentionally does not pick any kind of side. And
I did not get that vibe whatsoever. It felt very one-sided in terms of the journalists, like what their goal is, and it's just to capture the moments of like what's happening in the country.
What this movie is really about to me is the horrors of war, the profiting of war, the tension between different parts of the country, and how it can sort of boil to a certain point that you don't know the feelings of anyone around you. There's an early moment where they stop at a gas station, and that's sort of where I realized the type of movie that I was watching, because I was trying to figure out why I was starting to get really unsettled by this. I don't know if you felt this way, but the more and more the movie kept going, the more I was like, I feel really uneasy.
Yes.
And I was trying to figure out the reasoning why, because it's not necessarily paced in a way that's like an action film. If you look up what it's described as on IMDb or on Google, it says action whatever. It's not that. I agree with you.
Yeah, I don't think it's very action heavy whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I do love everything about when it comes to the tension of the movie, especially when they encounter other people once the characters are driving through the states, and seeing how the other people in the country are dealing with the ramifications of that war that's happening. Did they ever clarify why a war started?
No,
I don't remember.
They intentionally don't ever say why both Texas and California, of all states, decide to...
I read that the reason why I think the writer or the director chose California and Texas because they're polar opposites in the political system.
No, and I think that's super smart to do that, because you're like, what exactly happened here that led to these two states joining forces and doing that?
Yeah.
The best moment to me in this is probably the best moment that you think that's in this movie as well, and it features one of my favorite actors, Jesse Plemons.
Yeah. I felt so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The entire time. And it's just the way he approached them and the questions and just every little subtle thing. I remember whenever I scratch my face. Yeah. I think of that scene just because the way he just scratched his face while answering the question of what kind of American are you? Yeah. I just can't get over that.
It's these little kind of character tics, and the whole that's in the trailer, but the what kind of American are you reminds me of, I don't know if it's supposed to evoke the idea of whenever you go through the border crossings and stuff, and they ask you, what's your nationality, whatever it is, and you say American, and he kept saying that. But what if somebody took it a step further?
Oh, and when they asked about the states, I was just like, wow. When was Kirsten Dunst saying Colorado, and then the other girl,
Cailee Spaeny,
saying was it Missouri?
Yeah.
And then what's the guy's name?
It's pronounced Wagner Moura, I think.
Okay, and he said Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I loved when he said Florida, and then he goes, huh, and just undecided, because even in the movie they said that state became neutral. Yeah. And they were trying to convince and everything. I don't know why they went neutral again, but
it's also an interesting idea though that they do that, because Jesse Plemons, you don't even know what his ideology is. You don't know if he's doing it just for the sake of, there are people out there in the world that want to do that and want that sort of world to exist right now. or whatever he's supposed to be. The reason why I think it's really smart that this movie decided to take a politically neutral stance is because it requires you to put your own perspective on it, and your own opinion is basically asked of by the movie. But at the end of the day, it's really about the sort of moral compromise of what are you willing to do to get a good picture.
Yes.
And this is really underscored by the ending that I want to get into, because I don't know if you ever saw Priscilla.
No, I haven't.
But Cailee Spaeny a great actress. She's already great in everything that she's in. And
she's going to be in the new Alien movie.
Yeah, which I finally saw the trailer for, and it looks like the first one.
Oh, I haven't seen the trailer.
Oh, really? Yeah. It looks like it's going straight back to the isolated, like...
Oh, that's exciting.
I think you played the game for that, right? Or you watched someone play the game for it.
I watched Jack play the game. And I from like the start to end, that game looks amazing.
Yeah.
And you definitely felt very anxious the entire time. So...
What I would ask you, though, is what did you think about the takes of the certain kind of journalism that they're doing in this?
I loved everything, especially with Kirsten Dunst, just talking about like the very subtle things that, talking about her past and how she saw war and how she took those photos, especially during those times when she could have stepped in to change the outcomes, but she didn't.
Because she would rather take the moment, right? Like picture or get the picture for the moment. But I felt underwhelmed. I guess it's like the one thing where I felt very underwhelmed was at the very like end of the movie. Is this your flaw?
Like, my flaw, yeah. Okay. And my flaw was the fact that when her character Kirsten Dunst, like I'm assuming she died.
So I think so, because I want to let you finish.
Okay.
Sorry, that reminded
me. Damn, you interrupted me.
No, I'm sorry. I reminded the Beyonce thing. No, but I want to touch on that after.
Wait, what Beyonce thing?
I'm going to let you finish the Taylor Swift, but Beyonce deserved music video of the year.
Oh, the Kanye West thing?
Yeah.
You're Kanye?
No.
I'm Taylor? Dude, I don't want to be Taylor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What do you think of Taylor Swift?
No, I mean, she's fine. I like some of her songs.
Yeah, okay.
I love Lana Del Rey.
I like Lana.
It's not a phase. I just have to clarify. Okay.
Who's accusing you of it being a phase?
That's okay. I'll let it go.
Who?
No, it's fine.
I never said that to you.
I know.
Okay.
I'll tell you later.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, Erwin.
Okay.
What flaw were you talking about?
Before you interrupted me, you're right.
Yeah, my bad.
So, fuck. What was I saying before?
You were saying that Kirsten Dunst is...
Oh, yes. When she... I'm assuming she died or didn't, but... when that happened, right, I felt very little to no impact, but I just don't know if that's because maybe that's how the journalist felt too, the photographer, and like just captured the moment when she like got shot. But I think one issue I had was the fact it didn't give like the audience enough time. By audience, I guess mostly me. Yeah. I didn't get enough time with the kids. It's just me. I wasn't the only one in the theater, right?
That you just like turned next and was like, that was unfulfilling, right?
I did meet that guy I told you about. His name was Christopher. Right. Yeah. He was really nice. I like him. Even we just had one talk about.
Did you talk about it after, or did you just talk?
We talked about it afterward. Yeah.
Okay.
We sat through the entire credits.
Oh really? I like the credits idea a lot, where like it was the film processing.
Oh yeah, that was amazing.
That was really cool. Yeah.
And then. But it was just the fact that we didn't spend enough time with those characters or those characters interacting with another. So when that death, I'm assuming that death happened. Yeah. It wasn't impactful to me, at least. And because I just wish when they should have delved more into their past or understanding more, even though you already knew what they felt, I felt like maybe we should have just had more time with them. Because once it gets to the point where like the action starts happening, like the last 20 minutes,
like the third act, right?
Yeah. It was just go, 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 go. I love the moments when it was all silence, right? Yeah. And you see that like the press, they were just like hiding, trying to take photos and everything, but you see Kirsten Dunst's character not doing any of that. Yeah. right? And I wish we had some like inner dialogue or dialogue between the characters to expand that even more. At that point, you're just assuming, right, based off the action that are happening, but you're just being so dragged along and like being distracted by the things that are happening when she's feeling down and like stressed out and everything.
Right. No, so for me, I agree with you on a certain aspect of that, but I think it's kind of intentionally unfulfilling, and I liked that about it because I really liked Kirsten Dunst in this. I think she's basically the lead of it.
Yes.
And there are early moments where she's having these flashbacks, and some of the imagery in this movie is disturbing, but it's presented as so matter of fact that sometimes I think you kind of forget what you're even looking at.
Yeah.
Because there's a moment whenever the Jesse Plemons thing happens.
Yes.
And the actress, the younger one,
yes,
falls onto the pile of bodies.
Oh, yeah.
Is like really, you don't really quite realize what you're looking at first.
Yes.
Until she's climbing out, and then the shock of the entire situation.
Yes.
But I loved I was trying to look up his name just now, but I do not remember it. The one that was in Dune, the character actor, the older guy.
Oh, I'm blanking on his name too.
But he's really great
in
this, and unfortunately we can't remember his name off the top of our heads.
Oh, but I wish he didn't die though too. I wish he stayed longer. Just maybe if he died later on, it would have been impactful as well, because just even his presence alone. Yeah. Because the fact that he had compassion just already from the get-go shows that I can just see him like being a character favorite.
For me, I don't know if I've even clarified this yet. I love this movie like a lot. And
do you?
I do. And my issues with it are minimal, but some of the stuff is, unfortunately, it does sort of drag it down a little bit. And it's not anything pacing-wise. It's just kind of everything that we're talking about. I think that this movie could have been like 2 hours and 20 minutes, and I would have been totally fine with that.
I mean, runtime was never...
It's never an issue, but it's just the way you delegate different characters and what they do. And I grew to like these characters so much. Yeah. And it's always one of those things where I'm like, is this a flaw that I wanted more of them, or is this a pro to that as well? But
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say that I think that expanding on some of the stuff with Kirsten Dunst, I sort of feel the same way. But I think it's intentional in the third act that you're supposed to assume everything she's like thinking. Yeah. Because she stops taking pictures. They get there. Yeah. But they lost the person. But for me, I never really knew how much he meant to them until that happened. And I think it's implied, and a lot of this movie is based off of implication and what you think. But some of it I could have gone for a bit more detail on, specifically their relationship with him. But I think the unfulfillment of that is so effective because of one moment. And it's whenever it's sort of a parallel to an earlier conversation that they have, where Cailee Spaeny asks, if I were shot, would you take that picture? And she says, what do you think? And then the middle of it, where she takes the picture of basically their mentor or whatever they meant to him, and she deletes the picture, and she just kind of like walks away.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think if that movie was, I was just thinking about that too. I was like, oh, well, that could just be the part where you were just saying, like, the assuming aspect. Yeah. Of like, oh, okay, like, that's her arc, like, her change of character. Yeah. Right? But it just happened so fast. And that's when things start to happen again, where the action starts happening, and you just go. Yeah. And so it never gave you, like, the time, at least for me, where to sit with it and dwell with it, and, like, her change of perspective.
This movie just has such a blunt brutality and look to it, and look out on things, that I think that the mentality of that, I was used to the storytelling mechanism here that I didn't really expect that from it. Any emotional beat in this, they don't let you sit with for long, because they're like, look, this happens, move on. Yeah. And the movie's basically telling you to do that too, and it's essentially kind of forcing you to, because they have to also. Yeah. And so by the time they get to the ending, whenever she has this lookout on life at the beginning, Cailee Spaeny, before she sees those two guys hung up in the car wash,
yes.
which is another one of those sort of
That
disturbing.
was a great scene.
Yeah.
And it's just because they were still alive.
Yeah.
And one of them says, "Please, I have kids."
Yeah.
And they just didn't care. And it just goes to show how how other different societies. Oh, and then also that neighborhood as well.
Oh, the one where everything was just fine. Yeah.
Yeah. But really, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It's just people believe.
Kind of pretending to be.
Yeah, it's like everything's fine. We don't pay attention to the news.
Just saying that, like, we're going to stay out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But really, you're not. You're just partaking in their terms.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever the party may be.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's why I think that this movie operates interestingly on the level of not taking a side on anything.
Yeah.
Because it lets you fill in the gaps of what exactly could happen here.
Mm-hmm.
How far removed is this from the world now? And at the end of the day, does it even matter?
Yeah. And
it's asking all of these questions and asking you to ask all of these questions. And I saw the audience score for this right now. We were both looking at it. It was like 78% on Rotten Tomatoes and then like a 2.8 on Google out of 5.
Yeah.
And I think it's because, I don't know if it's weight of expectation marketing, that this looks more like an action movie or whatever it was.
Oh, the guy I told you about, Christopher, he says whenever he talked to other people about this movie, people said that it reminded him of like White House Down, Olympus Has Fallen, just because of how the trailers came out where it seemed action-packed.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, God,
Dude,
I hope
White
it's
House
not.
Down is good. Olympus Has Fallen sucks.
There's 3 of those.
I've seen 2 of them.
I've seen 2 of them as well.
I never saw Angel Has Fallen. I think his name is like Angel, or his code name Angel.
I don't know. They blame him for something.
Oh, yeah, and he's like gone rogue.
Basically.
That's what Bad Boys 4 is about.
Oh, man.
Which looks awesome.
That trailer looks so good.
Yeah, I watched the 3rd one again recently. That movie rocks. I
gotta watch the 3rd
love
one.
those. But, no, so the finality of it is intentionally underscored to me as underwhelming on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is to score the idea of being emotionally unfulfilling as the idea. And I think you like have to sit with that because it goes as far as the final quote that the president gives by Nick Offerman, who isn't in this very much, but I mean, it's always nice to see. Yeah.
I love that guy.
I do too. And all he says is tell them not to shoot or something like that.
Yeah.
And then he's like,
tell them not to shoot me. Or
yeah. And then
not to kill me.
he goes, that's all I need. And something like that. And the movie ends. Yeah. And they shoot him. And then it's the like picture of them standing around him.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be a provocative image. And it is. And I think the more specific moment that you are sort of left with, because I told you I was walking out of this movie and I felt like kind of just like really overwhelmed, but in a good way by it, because it sort of grips onto you at a point and really doesn't let you think about what's going on. It just sort of makes you sit, and it moves at this propulsive pace. And some of the sound effects specifically are designed in a way that are so loud, but in a good way, because it just feels shocking. The violence in this, while it's not necessarily an action movie, the action scenes aren't designed to be fun. They're designed to be like, no, watch these innocent people deal with this. Or are they innocent? We don't know. We just have to sit with the imagery happening in front of us while they do as well, because they don't interfere. And I think that's a really interesting storytelling mechanism that they do, because it also feels kind of like they're doing it in a documentary style, because a lot of the camera movement feels really handheld and on the ground, and until they get to the White House where it feels grander beforehand, because they're on the road, and everything before that feels really shaky. I think that's sort of a camera movement thing where they want you to feel just as uneasy as the people that they're depicting. But it's specifically the moment where her hero, it's emphasized that it's her hero the entire time, she takes the picture or pictures of her dying.
Yes.
And they don't even let you see it outside of the camera. You only see it in the camera. And to me, that was an indication of that's all that was for. to her at that point, but it's supposed to be her character growth where she feels incredibly shocked by the nature of the violence happening around her. And then later, she tells Kirsten Dunst, and I think there's a lot of really subtle eye acting in this movie and just like slow facial feature twitches. There's one where she goes, "I've never been more scared in my life, but I've also never felt more alive."
Oh, that's a great line.
Yeah. And there's a way that Kirsten Dunst looks at her, and I think it's supposed to give you that sounds like me.
Yeah. There's a lot of moments like that.
Yeah.
When she or the younger girl would would be a little bit reckless or say certain things that she would be reminded. And I think in a certain point in the movie, though, she did like say something where it's like, oh, like she reminds me of me when I was younger.
Yeah.
Type of thing. So.
Or they go like, "Weren't you like that at that age?" And it just sort of gives you the indication that these people have known each other for a really long time.
Yeah.
And they've dealt with all of this.
Yeah.
Before.
That's why I loved all the past stuff that was brought up from Kirsten Dunst's character.
Yeah.
And just seeing, like, I love all that, where you see her in different aspects of war, and before anything would happen, of just like something terrible and gruesome, it could have been easily where she could have stepped in and changed things, right?
Yeah.
Because think about it, because then that makes me think about at the very end of the movie, when she could have just not stepped in, the younger girl would have died, and then she would have taken a photo of her.
Yeah.
But she stepped in,
and then
she took the photo instead. So it's just like an endless cycle, which is insane to think about.
Yeah, it's supposed to be this sort of nature of, and a lot of war movies are about the nature of violence, how this is never ending.
Yes.
And giving this the depiction of not the actual people in the war themselves, the journalists, the people that don't have a say, the people that are there to document this.
Yes.
Is really smart because they're not the ones that are controlling any of this.
Yes.
But they still are kind of collateral if they die, but they're doing this to get the picture.
Yes.
And for me, I think that's character development for Kirsten Dunst, where she's like, look, I think the entire third act is her grappling with the idea of what had just happened previously.
Yes.
When it finally affected somebody that she knew personally is whenever it finally decided to take a toll on her.
And I just wish that their relationship was expanded on more so.
Yeah.
Before that scene actually happened.
I loved the idea of it too, but I definitely think I agree with you about that there could have been a bit more in terms of their development, because all we're really asking here is more of that, because this movie's already so well done. And the initial, when I realized that I was really loving this, was that first segment where they find the firefight in the night.
Yes.
And then he was like, I like some of the comic relief in this, because movie's so tense that whenever it has any kind of jokes, it just feels like it's funny enough to break the tension a little bit before it gets really serious. And it shows that they really love what they do.
Yes.
And sometimes they don't really view it in the humane perspective sometimes. Like especially Wagner Moura's character early on sort of feels like he doesn't acknowledge the human life around it until what happens later with the person that they know.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's really interesting because the sort of moral and gray of this, it just sort of asks you, would you in this position also do what they do, or would you just be there to, like, would you change things?
Yeah.
And that's why I think this movie feels so tense, because they don't. And you're like, they're just going to be the observers.
Yeah. And
we have to observe with them.
Yeah.
Up until it actually affects them.
Yeah, I think what makes this movie stand out also is just the fact that it doesn't feel like there's a side chosen in this movie.
Yeah.
You're just following like the events of the movie. And I think leaving it up to just you figuring out what you just said of, well, would I step in, or would I just let events happen and just recall with the events that are happening?
Yeah.
So.
And since you don't know what side this movie's taking. You don't know what any of the characters' sides are. So whenever they run into new people, you're always like,
Yes.
what is this issue that they're going to run into?
Yeah.
How's it going to go?
Mm-hmm.
You never know up until the movie's over, which is why you feel this real unease because it settles in more and more. And each time they stop, you're like, what are they going to run into now?
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really cool storytelling device to put this into a road trip instead of just in one
Location.
because that way you can see different parts of how America is affected.
Maybe if there wasn't... No, actually, there was like 3 different locations, though, right? They went to. There was like that gas station, the neighborhood, and then the... with Jesse Plemons.
Yeah, that house. Oh, I really liked that house segment where they run into the 2 guys.
Yes.
That was really, really, really good.
He's a great shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because you're just like, what is this? Like, what are they doing? And
what the soldier says, where he's like, what did he say? He's like, are you for the WF or something, or are you fighting for the whatever? Like, we're fighting for the president, right? And he goes, dude, I don't care about that right now. I'm just trying to survive.
Yeah. No, it's that really cool idea where it's whenever he's asking him something, and then he's asking him if he's dumb and then he goes, what are they doing? And then the girl says like, well, they're shooting at us and we need to shoot back at them. Yeah. Because it boils down to that, because it just asks the question, well, what exactly are they even, do they even know?
Yeah, do they even know what they're shooting at?
Like,
why?
No, I thought so much of this movie was so brilliant. I thought it was really, really well written. Some of the issues that people have with it that I've noticed they don't like that it doesn't take a political side. And I can understand that because it feels like this movie doesn't know what it wants to say. I think it does know what it wants to say. That's my personal take on it. And I do kind of like some of the more mixed reactions of it because that means that this movie's getting what it wants. Although I love this movie a lot, but my flaws are more about some of the minor character stuff.
Yeah, mine are mostly the characters.
Yeah. But I'm really, really sold by the ending because of one key shot. And it's whenever Cailee Spaegy's character, if you compare how she first takes a picture, like really wide-eyed, and I think that, like I said, there's a lot of subtle eye acting for sure in this. There's a way that Kirsten Dunst looks, and her eyes look throughout this entire movie, where they're kind of glazed.
Yes. And
like she's just sort of like not going through the motions, but like, this is routine. This is what I do. This is the job.
I mean, you felt that too with her body language as well. Like whenever she first put on that dress again.
Oh, yeah.
And like it gave her like a shift in mind. It was like, oh, I forgot.
Like how to be
human.
Yeah.
And like react to things like this. So
that's why whenever there's a moment where they're talking about like being shook up and they were saying she doesn't know that, but there are moments where where she's just sitting in the tub and she has I think it's like a guy on fire in the tire, and it's just like a really disturbing image, and they just show this to you point blank. But it's the sort of comparison to the wide-eyed girl at the beginning that's super innocent, and then throughout the trajectory of this, whenever she takes the picture of Kirsten Dunst's character dying, she then has a look on her eyes that is replicated and looks very similar to the one that Kirsten Dunst gives the entire time.
Oh, okay.
And she looks really kind of like that at that point.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious what the movie wants to say by doing that.
Yeah.
But it's just something that I noticed, and that was one of the final images that really stuck in my head.
Oh, okay.
And it's in the final couple minutes of the movie, so I think it's supposed to.
Yeah.
But I think that is the point overall.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, like you said, this sort of endless kind of cycle that goes throughout war and history, and sort of, I think placing this in the future kind of gives you the indication of this doesn't feel super far removed from America today, and I think that's the point.
Yeah.
But overall,
what would you rate it?
I was about to ask you that.
Whoa. That's
well,
crazy.
First, do you have any specific flaws you want to point out, or is that your one?
Yeah, that was my main. I think that was the only issue that I genuinely had with that movie.
Yeah?
Yeah.
For me, I would just want some more character interaction in the middle to fully drive home the points that it was making emotionally.
I felt like I got that in the beginning.
Yeah.
When they were honestly interacting with one another.
Right.
But it's the moment when the road trip starts happening, it's just one beat after another and just wouldn't stop. And you felt anxious the entire time.
Yeah.
So.
But outside of that, what would you give this movie?
What would you give this movie?
Okay. A 4.5 out of 5.
Dude, that kind of sucks.
Why?
Because I kind of gave that same score.
The same score?
Yeah.
Well, I love this movie a lot.
Yeah, I love it too.
It's been a good year for us so far.
Yeah.
I think.
Why? Are we going to die?
I hope not.
When the teacher tells you the sun's going to blow up in 85 billion years, I'm going to die.
Dinosaurs were real?
Where was I?
That's like whenever people kept saying that the world was going to end when the eclipse happened.
Dude, the amount of conspiracy theories I saw from that is hilarious.
No, because they're like, did you see that there was a 4.8 magnitude earthquake in California or whatever?
Like, earthquakes happen all the time.
But it's also because the eclipse was happening on April 8th. I mean, I don't know, man. I saw it. I had the glasses. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
It had the...
Were you at work?
I was at work, but then they let us out early, so I drove straight home, and then I watched it.
Nice.
But it was cool. I saw that one tweet that was like, hey, this looks just like the beginning of Dune.
Dune?
Everybody's Dune build, I guess. Us too.
Yeah, that's
I'm going to see the re-release whenever they do it, because I need to see it in IMAX again.
One more time.
Yeah.
One last time. One last ride.
Like Dominic Toretto?
Yeah.
He's been saying that since what, the 7th one?
I think so.
Yeah.
No, it's probably the 8th one.
No, 7.
It was?
Yeah, because of the Paul Walker stuff.
One last ride.
And then they made 8, 9, 10, Hobbs and Shaw.
Oh, man.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. Again, if you could, please leave a review for us or a star rating on Spotify, Apple, or really anywhere that podcasts can be found. That's not...
Okay.
Up next, we're going to have a review for you for Late Night with the Devil.
Ooh! And it's April, guys.
That movie should have come out in October. We'll talk about it. I'm so excited that we're going to be talking about that. Jesus.
Jesus, more like the devil.
Thank you guys.
I'm just kidding.
Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see you next time.